You were talking about a incident with a Wendy's truck, something like that, and it kind of thought we'd lead off with that. What do you got?
Well,
It's a Wendy's truck, or is it a trucker?
no, it's just a trucker.
Yeah.
And he was in Dauphin County there in Pennsylvania, outside of Lancaster. And he just picked up a whole load of meat, of beef.
Beef?
Yeah.
Where's the beef?
Exactly. So when I read it and I seen that he crashed into the Wendy's, the first thing that came to my mind was that commercial of the old lady going, "Where's the beef?" So that was just something hilarious. Unfortunately, the driver did get a little bit of facial injuries. He claimed that his glasses had fogged up, preventing him to see properly, and that's why he crashed into this Wendy's. But the extent of it, like he went through the Wendy's and then almost crashed into the Holiday Inn that was parked next to, or not parked, but built next to it. So he traveled a decent distance and sustained pretty good injuries on his face, they said. But unfortunately, also, the meat was destroyed. There's no more meat left.
So, but he is okay, though. That's the important thing. We got to make sure, first, before we make fun of it, we got to make sure that he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay. He sustained some facial injuries. But, I wonder, how, like, when you scuba dive, you got that spray that you could put on your goggles to prevent them from fogging up. I wonder how many drivers use that on their glasses and sunglasses to help prevent them from fogging up. I mean, I don't know why his glasses would have fogged up, but
what's funny? I was thinking about a couple jokes to make, but as you're telling me this, right, I'm thinking about the last couple days when I get in my pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
My window has been, what I mean? It's like 90 degrees, and my windows have been, meeting, I guess it's like when humidity and one temperature meets another temperature, and my dang windshield, I'm like driving down the road and it's like fogging up and icing up. It's just it's really weird the way it's been doing it. So I would say maybe in this truck driver's defense, possibly maybe it all of a sudden you're driving and boom, your eyes, your glasses just fog right up. I'll tell you truthfully, there's some guys out there, their eyes are so damn bad. If they had to take their glasses off to clean them real quick, they can't see nothing.
Right. I mean, it had to fog up pretty fast for him to go off the road like that. But like you said, it has been happening with the way the temperatures are going so extreme. I know I've seen like one of those, like the home remedy ones where they get like a sock full of rice and they throw it in the dash, or cat litter, I mean, and they throw it in the dash, and that helps absorb the moisture so that you're not having your windshield so full of the inside condensation. So I don't know if that's something that truckers want to try and start doing. If that's one of the things that they're coming across, is that their dash is getting so moist inside.
I am not giving truckers advice to put kitty litter in their dash. My luck, they'll show me videos of some cat taking a dump on their damn dashboard. You know how they scratch?
Ew. Yeah, no, you put it in a sock.
A cat's pooping on that sock. No, seriously. No. I would just say that, like you said, maybe if you have glasses, and lately because of the way it has been, there are times when extreme temperatures meet. It's hot on one side of the glass, cold on the other, I guess. I'm not sure the exact theory behind it, but I would say it's probably a good idea what you said in the beginning. Maybe have some kind of defogger already on your, I think, Windex, is it Windex?
I don't think Windex. Windex cleans it, but I don't know if it would defog it.
Yeah.
Rain-X.
Rain-X, rather.
Rain-X might.
Yeah, not Windex. You're right, Rain-X. Rain-X has that defogger, and I believe they do have window washes that also have it, so in case it does happen to your windshield. I'm just saying, normally I want to joke around about something like this, but it is no joke, and it's no joke to the truck driver that all of a sudden, boom, you can't see, and you're going through some fast food joint.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was a pretty extensive. I mean, look.
Yeah, that looks nasty. So he and obviously the joke is he was carrying beef and he went through a Wendy's. Mm-hmm. Here's the beef.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, you know what?
Right here.
I'll be honest with you though. to me, and I hate to bring up something else on this, but it's, to me, that's BS when they say, I'm looking at that picture. Let me see that picture again. I'm looking at that picture, right? And there's a trucker, and he's into the Wendy's, right? Let me see here.
Yeah, the first picture shows the damage to the Wendy's, and if you scroll down, you see two more pictures. One is,
Yeah.
like, you could see the distance from the Wendy's to the Holiday Inn even.
Okay, so here's the deal. There is no damage. Okay, yeah, there is damage on the trailer. Okay, I see that the trailer was a little busted open up in the, but still.
Yeah, the bulkhead, is that what it's called in the very front?
No, just the trailer itself. It wasn't the bulkhead, it's the actual trailer. So, but what I'm getting at is they said that the beef was destroyed. Now, most likely it was frozen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me, now I guess it would be destroyed if you, don't get it out in time and it takes a couple days and it thaws out and goes bad. I get that. But why couldn't you get it? Why couldn't you get it out? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No, I know what you're saying.
You're thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking about? When I was a driver, I had this load. And, when I was pulling reefer. And literally, I went to, I think it's called Deer Park Village, Pennsylvania. It's a prison. It's up above Milton. Write in if you guys can write in if I got the name wrong. But I think it's called Deer Park Village or something like that. And it was a medium security prison, right? And I'll never forget this. I was leased on the FFE, right? Actually, I was driving for an owner-operator. It was leased on the FFE.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into this prison with, it was like 6 or 10 skids of frozen chicken. And, I mean, it was frozen solid. The temperature on the chicken was like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the temperature was like 28 degrees. And it was supposed to be like 24 or something like that. Or maybe even colder. I don't even know. And they rejected the entire load. And I'm like, I'm looking at these people, I'm going, it's a frozen block of meat, right? And you're rejecting it. They got these numbers they go by.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if, with the Wendy's thing, they got to have it at a certain temperature or they deem it no good. And so then I got to thinking, well, in your own house, how many people check the temperature of their freezer? All I know is everything's frozen solid, and I've never died when I thaw it out and eat it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it doesn't make sense to me, all the waste, when you see a trailer like that. Okay, so there's an accident. There ain't a whole lot of damage. They could have just got that trailer, pulled the freight, and put it somewhere in storage and sold it or somehow, you know what I mean, kept it going. Or not kept it going, but at least recouped it in a sense.
So they wouldn't have lost all of it. I mean, even if they had donated it all to a shelter that would have been nearby, that they could have used it fast,
Do you remember when we worked for the pig farmer? Mm-hmm. We used to drive for this pig farmer years ago, and you would always go with me, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And when we would go to Wakefern, and I know there's a lot of truckers right now going, oh, yeah, I know Wakefern. Wakefern was the big ShopRite hub in New Jersey. I can't remember the town. It's big, it's right outside New York City. Anyways, we would go in there, and, there was a billion trucks waiting to get in and out, and we would go right in around the back because we were picking up for the pig farmer. And I remember having the conversation with the manager back there because they were throwing out, remember there was like 4 giant bins of live lobsters.
Yep.
And they were also throwing out all this stuff that was on the shelf, and the expiration date was still good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean like cakes, tasty cakes, and all this stuff that was like just really still good. And it was like, okay, we're getting rid of it now, even though the shelf life was for another week, right? And I asked the guy, I said, why don't you take this food and go across the river there and feed all the homeless people? I said, do you realize you're throwing this out to a pig farmer, and all he's going to do is take this food that's still good, and we're going to stick it in the trough, and the pigs are going to tear through it, and they're just going to pigs are going to eat it. And he has food for his own pigs. He's just taking this because you're looking to get rid of it because you don't want to pay to have it taken away, right? And I said, so why don't you just donate it? Donate it to homeless people. My gosh, feed America. And do you remember what his answer was?
I remember, but tell him.
His answer was, because as soon as one homeless guy chokes on this food, we now have litigation and big lawsuits because we just donated it to them and they went and are now suing us because it wasn't sold right. I guess through the way they have to do it. And I remember thinking to myself, this is one of the problems with insurance industries and all this other stuff. So going back to this Wendy's thing, when I see a tractor trailer, okay, go through a building, the trailer doesn't look all that bad. You can pull those skids of meat out and take it to the local cold storage house, the local food bank, whatever, resell it, or Wendy's, you could have taken it, to be honest with you. Either way, it annoys the living tar out of me.
It does me too, because there's too many people out there that are starving. I mean, right now, if you look at it, there's so many homeless people around, period. And it could be whatever their reasonings are. I'm not judging, but it still doesn't mean that they don't have enough food to eat. And the fact that our country's gotten to the point where we're more worried about being sued for giving something to someone that needs it, because that person that needs it wants to find a reason to get more money instead of earning it the right way. Do you follow what I'm trying to say? Kind of a little backwards with the way I'm trying to put it out there, but that's my mind.
Well, everybody's afraid to be sued.
Yeah.
And the problem is they allow people to sue for the most ridiculous reasons.
Exactly. That's what I mean. The judicial system should say, listen, sorry, you still could have said, I don't want that free food. You choked on it. Chew your food better. You know what I mean?
Chew your food better. I agree with you. And is somebody going to most likely try to sue them and make something up? Yeah. I mean, I seen a video last night where there's a scam going around Florida. It's called Rock in the Salad. They pretend that they broke their tooth on a piece of rock that was found in their salad, and then they try to shake the business down for money.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I mean, so, but we got to stop being afraid of scammers and just move forward with our lives and just, let the chips fall where they will. Stop being afraid, people. And my gosh, of all things, stop being afraid to do something nice for somebody. Give homeless people food. You're afraid to give it out because you might get sued on something they choke on. I mean, that's just the most stupid thing. Anyways, Ruth Ann, thank you for the Where's the Beef story. And I mean that sincerely. I'm glad the truckers are all right. I mean that sincerely. And, there's a little humor to it, to a little pun. But at the same time, it is very serious when your glasses fog up. And that is an annoying thing. I used to wear glasses, and I know that's happened to me already. And that is the most annoying thing in the world. Anyways, moving on. Let's take a little break here and let our sponsors say something, and we'll be right back. Hey drivers, are you sick of watching the other drivers bypass the way station while you are held up going through yourself? Well, download DriveWise today at www.drivewise.com. That's DRIVEWYZE.com, and start bypassing the scales yourself. If you're a small carrier, an owner-operator, or even a big fleet looking for something better, check out DriveWise today. And remember, there's no equipment, no transponders needed when you're using DriveWise. Check them out for a free download at www.drivewYZE.com. Drivers, if you're looking for a local, home, everyday driving job, apply with Carter Lumber today. They have positions for Class A and Class B local drivers. They can take experienced drivers, students, and non-CDL drivers. With over 160 locations, chances are they have a position for you. So go to carterlumber.com/talkcdl and apply today. Again, that's carterlumber.com/talkcdl. Thank you. If you're a driver looking for a new trucking job, check out NCI. NCI offers the following: new Kenworth T680s, competitive wages, solo, team, and students welcome, plus a full benefit package for you and your family. Check them out today at 888-311-7076. That's 888-7076. And tell them Talk CDL sent you. Truck Parking Club is a network of instantly reservable daily and monthly truck parking locations throughout the U.S. Truck Parking Club helps connect truckers to truck parking locations throughout the U.S. via truckparkingclub.com. Our networks is made up of property owners that have locations adequate for truck parking to list on the platform. This includes trucking companies, storage companies, CDL schools, trailer leasing companies, real estate investors, truck parking operators, and more. Go to truckparkingclub.com today.
Attention trucking companies and truck drivers. If you need help with cash flow, we've got help on the way. Turn to Tab Bank, the bank that knows trucking. Tab Bank has been in the business of helping truck drivers and trucking companies with their cash flow needs for 25 years. It's just that simple. It's what they do. But they don't stop there. Tab Bank helps grow your business with their invoice, factoring, and banking services. What a plus that is. Before you book your next load, play it safe and contact Tab Bank to get their help with your factoring needs. Tab Bank helps determine the credit worthiness of your customers as well as billing and collection efforts on invoices that you factor with them. Let the experts at Tab Bank get you cash quickly for the loads you deliver. Again, it's what they do. Visit tabbank.com/talkcdl to learn more. That's tabbank.com/talkcdl. Tab Bank member FDIC.
All right, we're back. I wanted to talk about choosing a job. You know, in trucking right now, we know how there's a freight problem, and we're in different times right now. I mean, there's no joke about it. You know, we're in touch with many trucking companies. We are in touch with many trucking companies that call us and talk to us, and they're all crying the blues right now with freight, and most of them are, not taking certain drivers, and it's not as easy for drivers to get hired right now. Drivers are leaving companies. But I wanted to talk to drivers, Ruthann, a little bit about the times we're in and really what to look for when choosing a company, and really to try to refrain from the typical desires when you're after a trucking job right now.
Okay.
So, one of the things that I'm hearing, and some of the typical things that, let's just say this. First off, what should a driver look for in a trucking company when researching the company or when talking to a company is, obviously, does the trucking company have freight? And this probably is I want to start off with probably the biggest reason to choose or not choose to go work for a trucking company right now is the first thing you should be asking them is, what freight do you have? Mm-hmm. And is the freight, and we've mentioned this before, but do you have contracts or do you produce your own freight? And, obviously the carriers that produce their own freight, okay, obviously companies like that right now are really the companies that will give you consistent work. If a trucking company, like say, just use an example. Let's say you go with a dry van company that has a contract with, say, Walmart or, whatever, some vacuum cleaner place or something. You know what I mean? Something where they haul, probably a bad example, but whatever. It's just car parts. Okay.
Okay.
Whatever. Mail contracts. When is the contracts due, sir?
Yeah, they usually go and run so long, maybe
so many
years, and
right.
then they're up for renewal.
Right. I know a trucking company right now, right, that has a contract. I won't tell you who they are, and I won't tell you who their customer is, because recently they had this really good contract, and then things were up for renewal, and they got underbid. Okay, and so they lost most of this big contract. They still have a little bit that they're doing for them, but their whole operation just changed because they did not, the shipper wanted the rates to go down, and it's tough to, haul for less. You got these shippers, and we talked about this recently also, shippers asking for reduction, and, with the cost going up, a bigger company stepped in and underbid this company. Well, now drivers that are going to that company, if they would have asked, hey, who's your contracts with? And if they would have found out that, okay, they just lost a contract, they would probably have been better off, because now if they went to work for this one company for the last 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they're probably asking, where's this freight you told me? Where are the miles at that you told me I could have? And if you lost contracts, you're going to lose miles.
Right. And you have to watch that because, especially when those bigger companies can come in and outbid the general commodities, right? That's what you're talking about, your general commodities that way. If I'm gathering what you're saying correctly, if you go to a company that produces their own and not using a broker or using load boards or anything like that, but they actually have their own freight, that's the ones that you want to be more interested in, right?
Absolutely. Working off the load board right now and relying on a company that's just strictly broker loads, or what they call the spot market, is trucker suicide. And the lure of a higher mileage rate, which we're going to talk about here in a second, might bring you in there. But, there's an old saying in trucking, miles means money. Okay, miles means money.
Well, we have, one thing that we've always done over the last, 7, 8 years is drivers that are new into the industry don't understand certain ways. They haven't learned that, like the tricks of the trade. So that might be because there are a lot of truckers now coming into the industry. That should be something that they should be aware of, because they don't know the differences. They heard the terminology. Everybody hears the terminology of the load boards, the brokers, general commodities. They know all those different terms, but they don't really have the complete gist of what is the whole picture of that.
I agree. So here's another red flag. So that's first, number one red flag would be if they don't have their own contracts or customers. Huge red flag to really consider, not working for that company, at least in the present time. 3 years ago during COVID, broker freight was amazing. People were getting rich. They were getting fat. It was a big thing. But, a trucker recently, tried to tell me, how, he's looking for a certain amount of money. We were talking, and I told him, I said, dude, that ain't out there. And he thinks he's going to get it. Well, here's what I told him. I said, listen, when this economy flips around and the freight comes back, you will know. You will know. Why will you know? Because every trucker will be telling each other, hey, go work for this, go do this, go do that. These guys are getting me miles. These guys are this. It spreads real fast. And there is no such thing right now. It is survival time for drivers. And so my advice is no contracts. No freight of their own. I would be really cautious about going to work for them. I don't care if they're giving you $2 a mile as a company driver. No miles means no money. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, here's the other red flag I would tell every driver right now. 1099 drivers versus W-2 drivers. Okay, first off, if you go on the irs.gov site, a 1099 driver is highly illegal, and the IRS is cracking down on trucking companies. I know a bunch of Chicago companies who are famous for being 1099 have flipped over to W-2. Now, if you go on the .IRS or the IRS.gov site and look up 1099 drivers or 1099 employment or something like that, it clearly explains, in order for you to be able to be a 1099 driver, you have to be in charge of where you're going. It says if the company tells you where you have to go, or they tell you what you have to do, and you don't have your own equipment, that is strictly a W-2 driver, meaning they have to do your tax and blah, blah, blah. I know it doesn't sound great to those guys that are used to 1099, but I'm telling you, they're cracking down on that right now, big time.
Well, they don't want to see. I mean, there's so many scams that go around. They don't want to see any more of it going on in the trucking industry. That, you know, when it comes to Uncle Sam getting their money and, you know, the truck driver getting ripped off, because in a sense, sometimes they do get ripped off when it comes to being paid. With the 1099, like when certain companies do it certain ways, they end up not really making it as good as they could have.
Well, here's where it hurts the truck driver. And it might sound like a great lure. Okay, you're going to go work for, you know, Chicago companies are notorious for 1099 jobs. You're going to go work for one that's giving you 10 cents a mile more. Okay, but the problem is, all right, you end up with on the spot market, like we were just talking about. That's usually where that's at. And so then you end up with no miles. The other really bad thing, and I know you know about this, a lot of those companies that are 1099, they don't want to pick up the phone and answer when the next guy that goes to hire you. And so therefore you become a ghost in the industry if they can't, most trucking companies, legit ones, can't prove that you actually drove for somebody. Your references, it really means nothing. And so now you're going to be stuck driving for another 1099 small company, and most likely on the spot market. And it's just going to be a nightmare. And then what happens to a lot of these drivers, they end up with 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11 jobs in the last 3 years. And right now, again, in the current market, they're not, a lot of job hoppers are not getting jobs right now. I have actually interviewed a lot of truck drivers lately that haven't driven in months because of their situation where nobody can get their references done, and they have too many jobs on their DAC and their PSP. And that's the other thing. You can't hide your jobs now. As soon as you get inspected, it goes on your PSP. So if you leave that company off your resume, guess what happens?
You falsified.
Well, you falsified because when they pull your PSP, they say, "What about this company? What about that company?" And you're sitting there going, "Well, I only worked there a week." Well, yeah, but you work there, and legally you have to put these companies down on your resume. So, I would really be careful of 1099 jobs right now because, again, it's really being cracked down on. So, be careful of 2 red flags. If a company don't have their own freighter contracts, and if they're trying to make you go 1099, I'm telling you. And the other thing, Ruth Ann, that I've noticed, and I'm telling you, over the last couple of years, I've talked to a lot of drivers that are in trouble with the IRS because they didn't file. So because they're not used to working. And when you're a 1099 driver, here's the issue. If you're not doing a lease purchase and you're just strictly what they call a 1099 company driver, let's say you're getting 70 cents a mile, right? You're not paying for the fuel. Guess who gets all the write-offs?
The company gets all the write-offs.
Exactly. You're running at 70 cents a mile, and at the end of the year, you don't have all these costs and write-offs that the trucking company has the advantage of using. And so there you are trying to figure out, coming up with all this tax money. And therefore, again, I knew a driver. Okay, he passed away. His name was Don Kramer, a good friend of mine. I'll say his name. He's not alive. He was a good friend of mine. And he was an owner-operator for 10 years. And what you remember what happened with Don? He got to the point where he didn't pay his taxes because of not saving and not doing it right, blah, blah, blah. And guess what happened to the guy? 10 years into it, the IRS sends him a letter, started harassing the poor guy, and they end up taking his truck. He ended up getting cancer. My guess is cancer from worrying about this. Cancer and then dying. So 1099 can be more hectic than you think, and I'm telling you that's a red flag.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's certain tax breaks that you can get as a trucker, and I don't know. I mean, of course, gloves and all that stuff, and the tax experts that we know, they'd be the ones that would be best to be able to say certain things. But I know, like your per diem and stuff, I don't even know if you'd be able to get certain benefits with that if you're strictly 1099. Like, I don't know how many benefits you can get into the whole.
You get none benefits, yeah. So, anyways, my next red flag, and to me, this is a big one. Trucks. If a trucking company has trucks that are over 5 years old, and personally, even a 5-year-old truck in today's market, if a driver runs 120,000 miles a year, a 5-year truck is going to have 800,000 miles on it. Do you understand that? So if you get a truck that's 5 years old and if you get a truck that somebody was teaming in that's 5 years old, that's going to have over 1 million miles on it. That truck is going to have problems. Okay, I don't care how you shake it, and I don't care what they're giving you. I recently talked to a driver that was put in a 2017 or something like that. Okay,
wow,
right. And so here's a guy that is in a truck that's 7 years old, and he said he worked for this company for a month, and he said he sat in shops. Like the entire time, it was one thing after another, and you really run the risk. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't some good trucks that are really well maintained, but I'm going to tell you something. You know how you can tell? Just by the way the truck looks is the way the guy that owns it takes care of it.
Right. Does it look like it's an older truck, or does it surprise you when you're like looking at it like, wow,
right,
that's not a new one?
You get into one of these beaters, and I can assure you, I don't care what they're paying you per mile. You're literally going to be screwed because you're now getting into a truck that's not going to go. If you're sitting, you can't make money, guys. All right, I'm telling you, you just can't do that. So I would tell you, be careful of anybody that's offering you older trucks. It just isn't. Listen, you just went into what's called bad odds. You just can't make it that way. The other thing that I would tell you is research the company. If it's a small company and, you know what I mean, their terminal is the local Walmart parking lot, that's a big red flag, guys. If they don't have a facility and their trucks are parked in a dirt field somewhere, you know what I mean, and they don't have a place to work on this stuff, I'm going to tell you something. You're in for a nightmare. You're in for a nightmare. These guys are, it's going to be like, okay, I'm broke down. I need a comm check. I need this. I need that. You guys are what I call a monkey operation. Don't go working for a monkey operation. And if you're a small company right now and you're hearing me and you're insulted by what I'm saying, if you have 10-year-old trucks and you don't have a facility, to me, honestly, you shouldn't be in business. And I don't care if you like what I'm saying or not, but if you don't have a way of taking care of your trucks, taking care of your drivers, okay, then you should not be in business. I don't care who you are. I don't care how big you are. If you're a monkey operation and you got old trucks, they're breaking down, and you're just trying to make a paycheck, I'm telling you, you shouldn't be in business, Ruthann. Some of the red flags I told drivers when they go to work for a company, you get there, your checks are late, okay? First time your check is late, I'm out of there. I don't care. I've talked to a driver the other day, and he said, this is the third time, and I've been here 3 months. This is the third time that I'm waiting for my check to go through my bank, and it's been 2 days. I said, dude, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Okay, fool me a third time, and I'm just a glutton for punishment. All right, I don't care if somebody's late on your checks. They're fire that company. Fire your boss if he literally is late on the checks. I talked to a guy the other day. Guess what he told me? He literally had been with this company for a week. and he's been sitting 2 days because the fuel card's not working.
Oh my gosh.
I said, dude, what's wrong with an EFS or a ComCheck? I mean, honestly, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to make it work. He went and took $400 of his own to get like some a couple joints greased and stuff that really the truck hadn't been done. So he's already got like money of his own invested in this company, and they don't even have his fuel card working right. And so he said, well, I told him, all right, route me back. I'm quitting. He said, magically within an hour, a check came to me. So, here's a company that obviously is waiting to get paid, probably from broker loads. All right. And it's just a cycling nightmare. They're waiting to be paid so they can actually pay the truck driver or to maintain their own trucks. And that's what I keep telling these guys. You go work for a company that's a monkey operation. As soon as they have one breakdown, Ruth Ann, guess what's going to happen? The driver's getting screwed.
One of the things that you've mentioned time and again is, when you have a company and you have a driver, the company really doesn't do anything in a sense to sustain itself. It's the driver that's making the money for that company. I mean, getting the loads, doing the dispatch, that's all little stuff. But the driver that's transporting that merchandise for you, the driver that's doing all the work, that's your bread and butter. You need to make sure that guy is happy, or girl is happy, because if they're not getting their money, if they're not getting the home time that they need, yes, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, there's certain things that are standard or that they knew before they came. But if you're not supplying them with what you promised them, you're not making money. You're not doing what you need to do. You need to protect and take care of your driver.
Right. The truck driver relies on, like you just said, the company to, first off, be honest in the beginning, and then supply the driver with miles to run. That's really how a trucker makes his money. You know what?
Hold the promises.
You know what I recently heard a truck driver told me? It broke my heart. You know what he told me? He said his check was 2 weeks late, and I don't know if the guy's wife or somebody in the background, one of the owners of this small company, was heard saying, well, my family's going to eat first. We're the owners.
That's sad.
Exactly. It's like he's in the background, made the statement that his family eats first. So what he was really saying is, listen, you ran and worked your ass off. You didn't go home for the last couple weeks as a trucker while I sat at home in my $1,000 penny loafers barbecuing my grill while my kids went to their private school on your freaking labor. They're going to eat before you, trucker, get paid for your labor. And I'll be honest with you, that moment that I heard that, I promise you that I would have never put another mile on that truck except to get my butt home. And, I know I'm not telling people to abandon trucks, but I'm telling you, there's a moment where you actually have zero any good coming out of that employment.
Yeah. I mean, they show you what they consider, especially if the guy had a family on his own. If he had kids of his own, what are they expecting him to do? Oh, your kid, my kid can starve.
Exactly. So look, there's the red flags before you go work for a company. And the red flags, if you start it with a company, not to stay there. Late checks, no miles, broke down trucks, fuel cards not working. Okay, you're into it a week. It's sad and it's going to hurt, but it's time to get out of there. That's a red flag. As soon as that check is late, one day, not 1 week, not one check behind. I'm telling you, Mr. Trucking Company owner, I'm here to put you all on notice. If you're late one freaking day, I tell your drivers that truck shouldn't go another mile. Okay, that man is there laboring for you. Do not expect, and if for you to think that driver should get in the truck and deliver your freight, hoping that you're going to now finally tell the truth at one lie about pay. And I'm telling you, drivers, that's it. Last mile. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write a book called Last Mile Driven, and it's going to be about companies that screw drivers. Do
you hear the passion in his voice? I had to pull my headset away from my ear. He was getting loud.
Oh, come on. So listen, I want to just real quick while I'm on this, I want to just say, here's a couple things that I wanted to mention. that drivers right now in the bad economy, you should really try to avoid making this why you go to work for a company. Number one, truck drivers, I talked to a truck driver the other day. He's got 6 months experience. All right. We were just talking on the phone. He called me and he was telling me about his last company. His last company went out of business. Okay. Now, because his last company that went out of business and he only has 6 months experience, not many people are going to hire him because they can't verify where he was running and all this other good stuff. Right. He had, W-2s showing that he worked there, but that doesn't give drug screen results, which I know the clearinghouse takes care of that now, but it doesn't give accident history. It doesn't give like if the guy had a bunch of little bumps. So a lot of legit companies don't want to hire. So I was telling him, dude, you got to take what you can get. And he was telling me, he said, well, all these companies are offering 50 cents a mile. Right. And he says, I don't work for free. I said, you got an offer for a job. Go take it. It's survival time. If you got a company that has freight, go take it. He's trying to hold out for this big mileage rate, right? And the problem is, I'm hearing these drivers say they don't work for such and such certain amount of mileage pay, and what they're failing to realize is go back to the companies that have freight versus the companies that are on broker loads. And I'm going to give you an example. If you work for a company that, say, is paying you 55 cents a mile, right? And they have their own freight, and you can run 3,000 miles a week, right? That's $1,650. But let's say you go work for a company that honestly is a broker company, and let's say they give you 70 cents a mile. And let's say all you're getting is 1,800 to 2,000 miles.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
That's $1,400 a week. That's it. So till it's all said and done, you can consistently make more money with the company, even though their mileage rate is less. Now, I've heard truckers go, I want to work smarter, not harder. Well, I'm here to tell you.
You're not working smarter.
Well, I'm here to tell you, okay, trying to find a company where you get more mileage rate and less miles to be able to make the same amount of money is trucker suicide right now. Right now, there's an old saying, hard work pays off. And if you're not busting your ass, these companies ain't hiring you. So I got news for you guys that are holding out for these high mileage rates. All you're doing is hurting yourself, because you're going to go, the only ones giving you the high mileage rates are the ones that have to, because they don't have the freight. That's it. And so you go to these companies and it's a consistent no miles. Just because your mileage rate is higher at the end of the year, you're 30, 40,000 a year less right now at these shitty high mileage rate companies with no freight. It don't pay off. So for you to argue, for you to argue with everybody that you want to work smarter, not harder, if you ain't willing to work hard, you ain't making money. Here's the bottom line. If you're not willing to work hard right now, and some of them are probably giving me the finger right now, saying, oh, that's bullshit, I could find it's not out there. All I'm saying is right now you're in survival mode. Take the company that maybe the mileage rate's less, but they have the freight. It's work. I talked to a guy the other day. He was promised 68 cents a mile. Okay, now we're in 2024, because who knows, this podcast, in 10 years, people are going, 68 cents a mile is a joke. But right now, 68 cents a mile would be a really good pay. Well, in the last 3 weeks, right? In the last 3 weeks, he hasn't broken $500.
Well, hello.
Right. And I said to him, he said, oh, my bills are going backwards. I need to work. I said to him, well, you need to go find one of these companies that, maybe they're going to pay you, 55 cents a mile or whatever you're going to take, right? But you're going to get 3,000 miles a week. And I said, would $1,600 to $1,700 a week for the last 3 weeks, he would have made $5,000. Instead, in the last 3 weeks, he's made about $1,200-$1,300 total for 3 weeks.
Right.
So in that theory of I want to work smarter, not harder, if you were smart, you'd pay attention to the industry right now and go with the times. Take the job where you can run the miles. And guys, guess what? It's not a forever thing. In 3 months, 6 months, a year, when the economy flips around and you can get the higher mileage rate and you can get the big miles and you can get the bigger paychecks consistently, then leave and go do it.
Well, do you remember years ago, the same thing was going on before? You know, where the certain companies were offering these really high mileage rates.
Yeah.
And it was, and there were, some of them were larger companies, some of them are not in business anymore. They might have been bought out or bankrupt, but they're offering drivers this, you can't, you know, what's that old saying? If it's too good to be true, it is.
Well, that's true. And I agree with you. But no, there was a time during the COVID times.
No, I'm talking way before that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and I agree with you. That you're, I actually know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's always a time where when you start looking at trucking companies, and I'll tell you, there's a trucking company that probably 10 years ago was offering 50 cents a mile when everybody else was getting 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you know who they are. They're a big company, and every driver that we talked to back then, I would ask them, why is everybody quitting the 10 cent a mile more company? And it was because they didn't have any miles.
Right.
But the lure of, you know, running for a higher mileage rate is always going to be there. But guys, you guys got to remember one thing. The companies that are usually paying the higher mileage rate, there's a reason they're paying that high mileage rate. It's because they don't have the miles. And in the long run, you always lose. And so therefore, I would just, again, suggest one thing. Find the company that has the freight and get a consistent paycheck. And look back. All you got to do is look back the last 6 months of your life and add up how much money you made with those higher mileage rates. And most of you guys, I know you can say you haven't made crap. So find somebody with consistency. Consistency wins right now.
Well, honestly, do you remember when you worked for a company? It ended up being a specific local company, but in the beginning they worked you pretty good, and then all of a sudden you couldn't get them to return your calls. You couldn't get them to get you out and working. And after you talked to other people, they said, oh yeah, no, the first 30, 60 days, yeah, you're their golden boy. They're going to work you. But then once you get closer to your 90 days there, they stop, they slow you down. Well, when you're working for or trying to go into a company that's working you with 70 cents a mile or whatever the higher mileage is.
When you first start.
Yeah. It's a trick. They get you in there. They might run you really good that first week, maybe a second week. But then the guys that they already have there that are less than that, they're going to work them more because they I don't want to say they got the seniority, but they're not paying them as high of a rate. So they're going to work them and get them the miles to even it out for them, so they're not paying you higher.
No, you're right, and that's an old trick in the book, especially when a company's trying to grow. They bring in a batch of drivers, they give them the miles, but now they got a new batch of drivers coming in, they're trying to grow. Nobody's trying to grow right now. Obviously, some companies have actually reduced. I would just be careful because of the times we're in. So be careful of worrying about your mileage rate. Worry about more getting miles right now, drivers. And I know a lot of you guys can look back over your last 3 jobs that you thought you were going to get a higher mileage rate. And my question for any driver that's searching for that higher mileage rate right now in a bad market, how's that working out for you? And I know it's not. And some of them are stubborn, thinking, I'm gonna get me that mileage rate with those miles. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get that until the miles are there. Mm-hmm. And that's when you can change. Right now, you got to find the contract, find the company that has the freight. Stop worrying about what you're getting paid per mile. Get a consistent check and start doing the math on what you've lost right now, trying to find that. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, how fast are your trucks? Okay. Now, I get it. I mean, I drove for a company that had 55-mile-an-hour trucks, cab overs, blah, 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 back in the day. But I get it. Nobody wants to be getting passed all the time. But again, we're in a freight recession right now. Mm-hmm. And if you have a company that has freight, get in your truck. If it's a 65-mile-an-hour truck, get in that company, and that's going to give you miles for the week, and go get your paycheck, drivers. The other thing is, a big thing is, where are your running areas? You know, your truck drivers are worried about running areas. You know, oh, I don't do the north. I put my time in at the Northeast, man. I'm telling you, man. I interview drivers all the time, and I hear drivers tell me, I put my time in at the Northeast. Let them younger guys. Guess what, dude? When you go work for a new trucking company, you didn't put your time in for them.
Right.
You didn't run the Northeast for that company. They don't give a flying rat's butt about all the Northeast you did for some other company. So when you're going somewhere, that's a laughable excuse. And I'll tell you right now, if you're hurting and your bills are behind, okay, and you're saying you're not going to take a job, even if it's a good job because they go to Pennsylvania or New Jersey, then you're the one that's crazy. I interviewed a driver a long time ago when I was working for Elderlight, and we were going to bring this driver in, all right, and he literally was all set up to come work for the company, right? And I swear to you, he said to me, I'm 3 mortgage payments behind. He said, Troy, well, I really want to thank you guys. So I was working for Elderlight at the time. This was years ago. And he said, I really want to thank you. And because I was a driver there, I said, listen, man, you're going to make, I promise you will get caught up fast because that company paid amazing. Right. We were casket haulers. And he said, oh, I forgot to ask you. Now, this is like right before he was supposed to come in. He was all pumped. He said, literally, we actually have no food in the house. He said, my family's literally almost starving. And the week or a couple days before he was ready to come in, you know what he said to me? I forgot to ask you how fast your trucks run. And I said, at the time, the trucks ran 68, right?
Right.
And he said, oh, I can't do that. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I can't do that. He goes, I will never run for that. I said, dude, you just told me you're 3 mortgage payments behind and your kids are starving. He goes, I don't care. I'm not running for that. I'm not going to run at 68 miles an hour. I don't do that. I said, well, then I want you to go tell little Jimmy and little Susie, screw you, daddy's speed is more important. You guys are getting skinnier. Go starve. Go tell your kids that. I literally told him that. And he said, I'm sorry. I know it sounds bad, but I am not going to go and work for that. I said, but you're about to lose your house. He didn't care. He was more. And so my thing with drivers is in a bad market, it's all about the money that's going in your paycheck, guys. And you may have to sacrifice to stay out longer, whatever. It's the market, Lord willing, is going to turn around. And when it does, this isn't a forever thing. I think drivers look at it too much like it's a forever thing, Ruth Ann. You're like, oh, I'm stuck there if I take that job.
I think a lot of them might want to, every driver, in the past when I was talking to them a lot frequently, they'd be like, I want this to be my forever home. Yeah, drivers don't want to go from job to job, but you also have to look at the big picture right now. If you have to take what you got to get until the job that you want is available, you take what you get. Dig ditches if you have to dig ditches. But that's one thing you always said. If I got to keep food on the table and if I have to keep a roof over your head, I'll do whatever I have to do. And drivers, some of them, they're so prideful. They don't think of the fact that they got to take what they got to take right now.
And look, we know not every driver thinks this way, but there's a lot of it going on right now. Drivers, right now, you got to recognize the times you're in. And this advice is really to help you, because if you think about what you've gone through in the last year with trying to find the better job, and it's not out there. And I promise you, as soon as those jobs are there, everybody will know it. We will all know it. It'll be like fire. Everybody's going to be like, wow, this is good. Things are happening. But right now, the trucking industry is the first to see the bad times and the first to see the good. So I just want to try to help you guys, and one of the things that's going to help you get that job, like you just said, Ruth Ann, is if they swallow their pride. That there's a term for that. It's called a means to an end. So you take a job that you don't like the speed of the truck, you don't like the running areas, you don't like, the mileage rate, but in 6 months from now, you can look back and say, I paid my bills. I had a consistent check. No, I didn't get ahead, but I survived. I made it. It's good. If I would have stayed with those companies that were on the spot market, I'd probably be living in a tent by now. So guys, my advice is survive. Just survive, guys. And in the end, it's going to work itself out. The good jobs will come back, but right now they're not there. And that's really all I wanted to say to drivers about this. Let's move on. Do you have the word of the day by Word Genius, by the way?
I do. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't know this. I've never heard this term before, so I thought I'd bring that out.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Wanted.
Wanted? Like WANTED? Wanted?
WONTED. Wanted.
Oh, does that mean lacking?
No.
Really?
No. And like I said, I was stunned. I mean, I never seen the word before. With all the books I've read, I've never seen this.
But isn't that word in the Bible? It says you were found wanting. Isn't it WONT? I could be wrong about that. Meaning you're wanting means you're without. You're lacking.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the same spelling.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
I could be wrong, but I don't see this being the same.
Yeah.
This is habitual or usual is the meaning. So when Clara returned home, she slipped back into her wonted, quiet life. Stan knew his wife had a wanted morning routine.
What does it mean again? Wanted means
habitual, usual.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean like routine?
Yeah.
Really? So the word want, WONTING, means habitual. That's interesting. And where does the word come from?
Middle English, 15th century.
That's what I kind of thought it was.
So this word is an adjective form of want, WONT, which means in the habit of doing something accustomed. It comes from the Old English word wonod, WUNOD, meaning to dwell, inhabit, exist, be accustomed to, used to. The homophones around want, WANT, WONT, and WONTED can cause some confusion. Duh. Evidently it did it with us. So it's basically because they're, you know how you have there, and there? They're sound the same, but they are totally different in their meaning and in their spelling. This is one of those words. So got me.
All right. Well, hey, that was really awesome. We're out of here.
Peace.
Peace. Praise the Lord.